You've heard the name Mahatma Gandhi, right? Of course, it's recognized all over the globe. But have you ever really stopped to think about how a quiet lawyer became a global icon of peace? Well, this is the story of that remarkable transformation. A journey that created a whole new kind of power, one that could actually challenge an entire empire.
I mean, just stop and think about what that really means. On one side, you got the might of the British Empire, one of the greatest military and economic powers in history. And on the other side, you have one man, armed only with ideas like truth and peace. It seems like an absolutely impossible fight. So the question that's going to drive our whole story is this: how did an idea become powerful enough to peacefully take down an empire?
To answer that, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Because before he was the Mahatma, which means great soul, he was simply Mohandas Gandhi, a young man just trying to find his place in the world.
You know, his early life was really shaped by two powerful and kind of contrasting forces. You had his father, a political leader, and then his deeply religious mother, who taught him all about things like non-harm and discipline. So after studying law in London, he's at a crossroads, and in 1893, he decides to take a job in South Africa. And that single decision, well, it would alter the course of his life and, frankly, history itself.
So, it was in South Africa that this well-dressed, British-educated lawyer came face to face with the brutal reality of racial discrimination. And that experience wouldn't just make him angry, it was going to awaken a revolutionary spirit inside him.
Okay, this moment is legendary for a reason. Just try to picture the scene. A young lawyer, educated in London, holding a perfectly valid first-class ticket, and he's physically thrown off a train just because he's Indian. Look, this wasn't just some personal insult. For Gandhi, it was like a lightning bolt of clarity, a profound injustice that set the entire course for the rest of his life.
And out of that fire of injustice, Gandhi didn't just find a cause to fight for. No, he forged a brand new weapon, one not made of violence, but of principle. An entirely new way to fight for social change, which he called the force of truth.
At the very heart of his philosophy is this one powerful word, Satyagraha. It basically translates to truth force. Now, you got to get this straight. This is not passive resistance. It's an active, very disciplined strategy. The core belief is that if you courageously stand for the truth without using violence, you expose how unjust your oppressor is, not just to the world, but to the oppressor themselves. It's a moral and psychological weapon designed to convert them, not to crush them.
And Satyagraha wasn't just some protest tactic, it was a whole way of life, and it was rooted in several core beliefs. The absolute foundation was ahimsa, or nonviolence. But this connected to everything else, living simply, social equality, and, this one's crucial, swadesha, or self-reliance. That was the idea of gaining economic independence from the very system you're protesting. It was a complete, holistic vision for how to make change happen.
And when you put it side by side with traditional protest, you really see just how revolutionary Gandhi's thinking was. Violent protest, its goal is victory through force, right? To beat the other guy. Satyagraha's goal is totally different. It aims to change the opponent's mind by appealing to their conscience. So instead of secrecy and weapons, its real power comes from being open, having moral courage, and unwavering self-discipline. It's a fundamental shift in what power even means.
So, after honing this philosophy for 21 years in South Africa, Gandhi returned to India in 1915. And now he was ready to test the power of Satyagraha on the biggest stage imaginable, the struggle for India's independence. And he put his ideas into action with a series of campaigns that just kept getting bigger and bigger. He started locally to prove his methods worked, then he scaled up, launching these nationwide movements that grabbed the world's attention, from the massive non-cooperation movement to the iconic Salt March in 1930, and finally the decisive Quit India movement. Each one of these was like a seismic shock to the very foundations of the British Empire.
And this, right here, was the true genius of his strategy. Satyagraha wasn't some idea just for saints or heroes. It was a practical tool that millions of ordinary people, we're talking farmers, students, women, could use to actively take part in their own liberation. Gandhi basically transformed the fight for freedom from some distant political debate into a powerful, personal mass awakening. In 1947, Gandhi lived to see his lifelong dream come true, an independent India. But the final chapter of his story is a tragic one, and it's what cemented his legacy not just as a leader, but as a martyr for peace.
Just a few months after India won its freedom, the apostle of nonviolence was killed by an assassin's bullet. It was a shocking, brutal end to a life dedicated to peace.
The whole world mourned the loss of the man. But his philosophy, his idea of Satyagraha, well, that couldn't be silenced. In fact, you could say it was now more powerful than ever.
So today, his legacy is really twofold. Within India, he's revered as the father of the nation, but his influence extends way, way beyond that, making him a global icon of peace. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance basically became a blueprint for change, inspiring civil rights leaders and movements for generations, from Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States to Nelson Mandela in South Africa.
And so that leaves us with a powerful question for our own time. In a world still wrestling with so much conflict and division, what can we still learn from a philosophy that's built not on force, but on the relentless pursuit of truth and peace? That, right there, is the enduring challenge of Gandhi's legacy. Thanks for sticking with us for this explainer.